To me, this is not just another nation. It is not just one of the family of nations. This is a nation with a great mission to perform for the benefit of liberty-loving people everywhere.
That we shall be as a city upon a hill.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of his country.
You come to fight a three men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Proclaim liberty throughout all the land.
In one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not finish without a fight. You gotta fight! Play it right! There you digger!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Real News, another edition in the morning. My name is Mr. Henry. I am so extremely excited to have y'all join us this morning and talking about these issues we have on the docket. Sean, every time I see that intro video, man, it just gets cooler and cooler to me. I really love that. I seriously do. It's just like doing this thing on the radio for such a long time, bro. Like there was an entire component missing to all this. Like how many times do we say to each other, if we could only show this video, if you could only see what I'm doing. Audio is great, but I'd love the visual side as well, man. It's a whole new world up in Shine, buddy. How you doing this morning?
It's a whole new world. I feel like Ariel after she came out of the ocean. And wait, I totally did the wrong video there. Sorry, princess people who enjoy those movies. Whole new world. That was Aladdin. That was Aladdin.
It all works.
That was Aladdin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe I feel like Jasmine, but that now it's starting to feel weird. So I'm gonna move on. But anyway. Yeah, it's cool to have video. It's cool to be live with all these great people. Thank you for joining Real News. Thank you so much to all the people who went along the journey with us yesterday to get the word out there about the hashtag reject bailouts, rejectbailouts.com. Lots of people, Real News folks, participated in that day of action yesterday. Lots of great AFP volunteers, lots of great just Real News folks. But if you feel it, Friday is probably when we're going to have some legislation. Debate's happening now. I'm going to be posting videos during the week, today even, of the Senate debating the issue, talking about this $1 trillion bailout to state and local governments. But thank you to all you who participated. Stay tuned during the week. As long as you know this is an issue, keep using the hashtag reject bailouts. And if you have not gone to rejectbailouts.com and checked out how you can get involved, it's really easy. You can send a letter to your senators. It's really easy. Rejectbailouts.com. If you haven't done that yet, go ahead and do it because they're asking for so much money that they don't need, and God only knows what they're going to do with it. Probably just waste it. But anyway, Mr. Henry, good morning. Sorry, I had to do that little commercial there, and thank everybody for all the great participation we had yesterday.
No, that's honestly that's why I let you go, man. Because I think that's part of the whole greatest audience in the nation appreciation segment, right? That's why I let you go, because that's what I was going to say for mine as well. It's like, man, how appreciative we are of everybody pouring in yesterday, of everybody taking action. And I don't know how much we can give on some of these numbers or anything, but we were at least given indication from our corporate folks top down that this is one of the biggest movements they've ever seen in company history, right? So, I mean, it was a massive movement
I think
yesterday.
we can
so
say
we
that
appreciate it.
I think something that's really cool, that's not really number specific, that we can say on the air. This has been bigger for Americans for Prosperity than Obamacare was. I think we can say that. I think it's totally fair to say. And like, good for the American people for stepping up and realizing that this is a huge expenditure. I remember the initial cost of the Affordable Care Act was thought to be around $1 trillion. That ended up being an underestimate, and will probably be the case with this as well, by the way.
Yeah, man. Look, and so again, we greatest honors to the nation appreciation segment here. Seriously appreciate you guys coming out, doing everything you possibly can to make an impact on that. A headline story there that you see is just at the top. I want to touch this quickly and just make one point for myself that I'm slightly confused on, and also get the audience's take on this. Headline there coming from WBIR: Tennessee official, fear of virus not reason to vote by mail. Officials are advising their local counterparts to prepare as though all 1.4 million registered voters who are at least 60 will be voting by mail in the August election. election. Now, Tennessee election officials say that the fear of contracting coronavirus does not meet criteria to vote by mail due to illness in the state. Elections Coordinator Mark Goins said Tuesday that the determination was made in consultation with the Attorney General's office, going on to say that Governor Lee actually agreed with the determination, saying he wants to make sure it's safe for people to get out and vote. Here's his quote. Lee said on yesterday, quote, we want to do this in this state. What we want to do in this state is remove a reason to have fear about going to polling booths. We've worked hard to set up businesses in a way that make people feel safe. We're going to do the same with our elections. Honestly, I think that comparison there is a very not only interesting one to draw, but it's just the most reasonable and rational one. I saw someone make a comment actually on the Facebook post yesterday. I don't have this person's name in front of me, but they said something to the effect of like, look, y'all, if we can handle ourselves safely going and standing in line in Walmart and walking through with the dozens, if not hundreds, potentially of individuals that are at Walmart or Home Depot, we can handle the election stuff. Like we can get that right. It might take us a little bit longer. I understand that, but if we want to do it right, we can get it done right. There's no problem. There's no problem there at all. If you can go to Walmart, you can vote. Here's the part that I need some clarification on, though, Shine, is that I just don't understand why this story from about 3 weeks ago didn't pick up more Democrat traction because of this stuff. 3 weeks ago, you all remember in Wisconsin, they were having an election, a special election at the time, right? Or maybe it was their primaries that was coming through. I think it was their primaries, whatever it was. It was a Supreme Court election in particular. I know that for sure. And the Supreme Court of the, Wisconsin came down and said, like, I'm sorry, Governor, your executive order cannot extend to shutting down an election. You can't do it. Legislature might be able to, but they didn't do it. So you're going to have to still ask people to go out there and vote. If you haven't asked for a mail-in ballot before, we're not going to extend the deadline. And the narrative that came out of that, Chime, was that Democrat media coverage was saying that they had a spike in coronavirus cases like the week after that happened, directly relating to people showing up. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I am supremely surprised that Democrat media didn't just pounce on that narrative, because they could have used this every single time something like this came out. Was it just not believable enough? Did people not get behind it enough? I don't necessarily know. Did they maybe like the correlation causation effect was too much to just make anything out of? What's your take?
Or maybe they just missed it and didn't take advantage of it. Sounds like something that would happen to our current elites, right? I don't know. We just got spoiled, Grant, when we were teenagers and younger. The elites were just smarter. I mean, let's be real about it. People I agree with and disagree with that are elites. The elites were just better in the 90s and early 2000s. Maybe they just missed it. They don't seem to be the brightest bulbs in the box, historically speaking, not when it comes to people who run everything. They probably just missed it. And not to mention, they don't have a person or a place or an institution that can really put out a unified message either. They don't have Donald Trump's Twitter account. You get what I'm saying? So anytime they have a message, it's got to bubble up from a bunch of sources, and they're kind of playing Russian roulette to see if it becomes a meme or a story or a narrative, so to speak. But I guarantee you, moving forward, maybe they were just saving it, because they're going to be pushing for mail-in ballots. It started a few weeks ago, and it's only going to get worse as we move forward. In fact, they'll probably try to sneak something that has to do with mail-in ballots into this CARES Act 3, or they called it the
or whatever you want to call it. And that's why I bring it up
this
morning. It's because Shine got on me with this morning, and like I bring this idea up about the whole mail-in voting process to ask the question of like, all right, man, so if this is just not believable, because it seems like a lot of stuff is totally believable nowadays, like on its face. All right, so one of the things that is totally believable on its face is that apparently states are asking for money that is well over proportion to what their actual state budget is. Shine got on, like, as soon as he got on this Zoom call this morning, we get on about a half hour ahead of time to do some prep. He just like goes off on like, what is happening? Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So nonstop over the past, we did all that work yesterday of talking about bailouts, and after doing all that work and interfacing with a lot of volunteers and activists and questions, I said, you know what? I know a lot about this, but especially now that the legislation's out, people are making public statements, they're going on TV, I ought to just really deep dive, which I did last night and this morning. And from what I can find out, I cannot understand why they're asking for, and this is now official, it's in the proposed bill, states and municipalities are asking for $1 trillion. I don't know if they're asking for it, but that's what the Democrats are proposing, $1 trillion in state and local bailouts. And by the way, this isn't even for me pushing the hashtag reject bailouts or whatever. This is just me thinking about it, okay? I can't figure out why they need $1 trillion. California has said that they have a $50 billion budget shortfall. And they're talking about that being a lot of money. Not like, we may need more in the future. They're talking about, whoa, a $50 billion shortfall. Illinois, a $40 billion shortfall. New York in the 30s, like $33 billion shortfall. I was reading North Carolina, it's like a little over $1 billion. Tennessee, I've heard we've had like $700 billion, something like that. Maybe I'm overestimating it a little bit. But I'm just saying,
the point stands,
the point stands that if you start doing math, which I know can be really hard for people in Congress. Man, that was a little low, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I don't want to.
I don't think so. They would agree, dude. They're all attorneys up there anyways. They haven't taken a math course since senior year of high school.
Okay,
You're
good.
right.
So I know that when you start looking at numbers, I can't figure out why state and and even when you look at municipalities, it's in the millions, right? This city needs $1 million. This city over here needs $30 million. Maybe some bigger cities like Nashville. I don't know what their deal is. But when you add it all up, and I haven't added it all up. This is anecdotal. So if someone wants to double check me and do a report, a little book report on how much people are actually seeing their shortfalls are, I think it's less than $150 billion. And I can't figure out why they need $1 trillion. And I don't think they're even going to take the time to explain to you, the American people, why they need $1 trillion.
Right.
They're just going to let facts sit there. And what's super weird, I don't know. You got the governors of different states going on television, pulling out their little hankies and saying, if we don't get these bailouts, children are going to die. That's what they're acting like. And they're saying, we need these $50 billion so bad. And it's like, well, okay, maybe if you came to the people's house in D.C. and the people who represent you, the Democrats, said California needs $50 billion. That sounds a lot better than $1 trillion. A lot better. Like 950 times smaller, because it's not times smaller, but you get what I'm saying. Like 50 billion is a lot. Just infinitely less than $1 trillion. And I think if all these states were literally saying, here's what our shortfalls are, and where you need to keep these firefighters, nurses, policemen, and this is what we need for that. I think this would not be as big of a deal. I think we could have reasonable conversations. I think it could be non-political. But here's I feel like they're being blatantly dishonest. They're putting out conflicting facts. They're saying, we need this $1 trillion, but here's our budget shortfalls. That's a lie. They're saying we need it for firefighters, nurses, and policemen. That all got covered in CARES Act 1. And that amount of money doesn't add up to $1 trillion. It doesn't even add up to the whole state budgets, of all the state budgets. So that's a lie. It's a lie. And because as we've talked about, granted, as soon as I brought that up, you started talking about unfunded pension liabilities.
Exactly. I think that's what a lot of people have said.
Well, it's the only way you make the math work, right? It's the only way that you make the math for $1 trillion. That's the only thing that could possibly cost $1 trillion. But they're not telling you, they're not going on CBS, ABC, and NBC and crying about pensions. And part of that is because pensions are not an emergency. That's the point.
And when I first started asking the same thing, that was the same response that I received was, well, you have to understand that a lot of what they're asking for has nothing to do with state budgetary concerns, at least not in your typical sense. It has to do with, the shortfall of unemployment, or it has to do with unfunded pension liability going forward, or it has to do with a whole bunch of stuff that's COVID-19 related, sort of, kind of. I don't know. I don't know, right? Ray says in Facebook a second ago, Kelly said they used magical math. Ray said in Facebook a second ago that the number of shortfalls in income tax states are needing to be reviewed for errors. The approximate math of those states don't come near the payments made for the Paycheck Protection payments. Kelly went on to say that they never do. In fact, these I can't say that word, Kelly. These people, let's say, don't even read the stuff they pass as law. That's true. Okay. Now, a lot of times they don't even read the stuff they're passing as law. Good Lord, dude. They're calling it the Heroes Act. To Shine's point right there a second ago. And frankly speaking, I personally believe they are exploiting actual heroes a little bit. Okay, you know how Mr. Henry here, I'm going to ride that objective line, but they're exploiting actual heroes a little bit here to get a bunch of money sent out to some of these states. I mean, that's frankly what's going on here. Okay, so when Shine says
a third
that
of the bill is for states and municipalities, a third of it.
It's like the cornerstone of this entire thing. It's $1 trillion, $874 billion to be exact, but whatever. Close to $1 trillion of this entire thing is going directly to states. So when Kelly says they never do, in fact, these people don't even read the stuff they pass, that new bill is over 1,800 pages long. The summary by itself is close to 100 pages long, right? Here's what I think has happened a little bit, man. I think that Democrats came out the first time and really didn't get a lot of pushback. They were just kind of like, I don't know, man, maybe you should ask for like $2 trillion. All right, man, let's call it $2.5 trillion. And then we'll have an extra $500 billion over here in the pocket later on when the PPP fails. Okay. So yeah, when that happens, they didn't get a lot of pushback from Republicans because let's be honest, bro, like everybody needed help at that point. Everybody kind of needed some type of government handout. And I don't like it. I'm not trying to justify that. I'm not even trying to rationalize where we are right now. I'm just saying every single congressman had constituents that he had to own up to. Not own to, but provide for in some sense, okay? We are talking a major biologically driven economic catastrophe, something we could not have accounted for. And I'm not trying to make sense of that right now. All I'm saying is the first time around, Republicans were thinking, I kind of need some help here too, buddy. Okay, my folks kind of need some help here too. But what ended up happening? Republicans didn't give pushback, and we spent $3 trillion for the best thing to happen is some unemployment coverage, a little bit of PPP, and your average person gets $1,200 in their check. I mean, in their bank account on a single occasion.
At least
Republicans like, where did the rest of that go?
At least
what happened?
Yeah,
I don't know. And then the second time around, Democrats are thinking like, well, that was easy. It's like that big red button that you pushed at Office Max or Office Depot, whatever. That was easy. So $3 trillion the first time. Let's go ahead and ask for $4 trillion. And that's what they did yesterday. Nancy Pelosi asked for $4 trillion. Well, they thought that was maybe a little bit too much. So let's roll it back to $3 trillion. Then we'll roll it back to $3 trillion and just see what you can get out of it, dude. I mean, it's just like I don't think they're expecting to get any real pushback. I don't, man. And I honestly don't know what to do with that.
The reason let me qualify too. The reason I'm so upset is because we're talking about spending our great grandchildren's money, and the debate. If it was a good faith debate where it's like, here's the facts, this is what we need, and then here's my ideology factored into that, or political priorities, or however you want to put it, and I'll take a stance and I'll argue my side or whatever. That would be something I'd be willing to participate in. And I'd feel good about the outcome. If all the facts were honest, you know what I'm saying? I'd say, okay, we had a good faith debate and my side lost. Okay, that's the way it goes in a democracy. Or a republic, whatever. In a place where we don't have God kings, okay? I would be okay if I lose a debate. But when the debate starts with bad faith actors golly, that Cuomo video really made me upset. The Cuomo and Stephen Colbert, and then also CBS News did a thing. It was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember the name. I'll try to find it here in a second. Where all they did for 5 minutes was interview people on Zoom who are firefighters, nurses, and teachers who basically said, I won't be able to do my job and I'll probably get coronavirus and so will my grandmother if we don't get these state bailouts. And I'm just sick of that crap. It's crap. It's lying. And I know I'm probably even making people turn off the stream right now because I'm being so aggressive. And I'm sorry. But like, this is not cool. We're talking about spending our great-grandchildren's money, and I'm having to address lies instead of good faith debate.
Yeah, I know.
And what's really unfortunate
is don't address the lies that they'll carry on, like silence is submission somehow.
Well,
right? Like
you're just saying it's so dishonest to say these $1 trillion is going to go to firefighters, teachers, and medical workers. Those people are getting, it's not even going to be a part of the same chunk. It's not even about the state bailout chunk. The state bailout chunk is not for them. That's not what it's for. I mean, in CARES Act 1, it specifically sent money to firefighters, police, and whatever. And there will probably be a provision specifically earmarked for all those groups in this bill, separate from the state bailout. I haven't read through it yet, but I'm almost certain they will because they want a virtue signal that they're helping those people specifically. And I think the stuff I'm saying here, Grant, like a lot of it's not, double check me here. I'm not like assuming things. Most of the stuff is stuff I've seen firsthand. I haven't held the paper or anything, but I've seen sources. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic here. I feel like this is a bad faith debate that if we don't get a handle on it, could affect us for years and years and years. And I'm so tired of these governors who are just trying to bail out their egos, lie, and use your emotions and your good personness. The fact that you're a good person and you don't want people to die and you appreciate people sacrificing their time and doing things that are taking risk in order to help their fellow man, like firefighters and teachers and nurses and doctors, and taking advantage of that so that you can subsidize their bad ideas for decades. Not just the ones that have been bad ideas for decades, but that will continue for decades, because they're not just like tying over a program. They're to me, if they're asking for 10 times what they need, Mr. Henry, then they're making sure these bad programs can be around for 100 years. They're going to set up trust funds like the Social Security Trust Fund and draw from it and bankrupt that thing too, by the way. They're not just going to spend this money. They're going to put it in an account that can accrue, that they can draw from the interest. And keep these, and I also, and this is, now I said all that stuff about not saying anything that I don't know. Now I'm going to get into prognostication. Something that I think is happening, and I didn't even tell Mr. Henry I was going to throw this out here, but I'm going to throw it out here, and I'd like to see your comments. The reason they went with unemployment insurance instead of direct payments in CARES Act 1 was to make it a state institution. The reason they're asking for state bailouts now is to fortify those state institutions of giving people monthly checks. And I kind of think, based on what I've heard from some of these representatives, people in local governments in states like California and New York, I think they may be trying to make their own breakaway socialist system within their own states and have it fully funded for the next 25 years. And they are counting on, and I think they're counting on the meme that so goes California, so goes the rest of the country. If you have the largest economies in the United States set up as breakaway socialist states, and by the way, California has talked about and joked about, even from the governor's office, breaking away from the United States at certain times when there's been tension with Governor Newsom and Trump. Okay, and even if it's in the metaphorical sense, not in the literal sense, however you want to put it, there is an ideology difference. And they're trying between literally 5 or 6 states and their large populations and large economies and the rest of the country. And I think they're trying to make a separate economic system. And they're counting on the fact that if their economies do it, the rest of the economies will follow, even if it takes 50 years. And I only say that because they're asking for $1 trillion. They're asking for 10 times what they'll need. What are they going to do with it? They're obviously going to fund things that move their ideology ball forward. And I won't go into any more prognostication than that, but you can use money for a lot of things. Use your imagination, especially with states that have been openly hostile to the current government in the United States. Openly, they could start their own. They could I won't even say that. I was going to say something about their own state national guards, but I won't even go down that road. Okay. But the economic, do you hear what I'm saying on the economic side?
No,
of setting up
totally
a separate breakaway economic system.
Well, and think about it this way too, man. Like it's once any version of government, once any governmental entity attains that power, it is, I don't want to say virtually impossible to get it back, but it is very, very difficult, extremely difficult for American citizens to claw that power back from the government. And once you start funding some of those powers, once you start funding some of that intention, it then becomes even more difficult to bring some of that power back, right? I think that's what Sean's talking about. In part of that, the story I want to end on today in the last 6 minutes, at least that I have here, Senate, by the way, I will, vulnerability breeds vulnerability here, Sean. I have no problem admitting this. I didn't even know about this headline until I just haphazardly stumbled across it because I was looking up some more information about our DNI, our acting intelligence chief, declassifying the names of Obama individuals that unmasked Flynn's name. I was looking up some more stuff about that yesterday because I was talking to my buddy John Chandler here in Middle Tennessee. We were talking about the Obamagate stuff. I was telling him why the unmasking stuff is so important, and I stumbled upon this realization from another story coming up by Lawfare blog that really breaks this down. Dude, the Senate is voting, and the House has already passed this apparently. The Senate is voting on 5 different amendments to FISA reform. Like, I didn't even realize that on March 16th, about a month ago, March 16th, the FISA Court, March 11th, let me correct that. On March 11th, the FISA Court just stopped being authorized, was just no longer authorized. And because of coronavirus stuff, for about the past month, apparently the FISA Court has been operating at some weird, haphazard extenuation of whatever's been going on before. It's dude, I had no idea. That is the major story, that the FISA Court no longer has any authorization, which means that they have to vote to reauthorize it, which means everything that the Russiagate conspiracy was founded upon, the Steele dossier was founded upon, this new Obamagate, theories founded upon, all that stuff is up in flux right now, bro. And there's 5 major amendments that the Senate is either voting on today or tomorrow or Friday to drastically reduce the power of what's called these Section 702 and 703 documents or whatever else. They're called about queries. It doesn't matter. The first one that they're proposing here, man, was the First Amendment by not the First Amendment, but the First Amendment proposed to reduce some of the power for the FISA Court. If you don't know, real quick, FISA Court, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Acts, basically gives intelligence departments of the United States the ability to surveil foreign individuals and incidentally pick up information on American citizens as well, right? So Rand Paul proposed this amendment that would prohibit an officer of the United States from requesting in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court from ordering 5 different things: electronic surveillance of a U.S. person, physical searches of premises or property of a U.S. person, installation of use of a PIN register or trap and trace device to obtain information on a U.S. person, production of tangible things concerning a U.S. person, and any targeting of a U.S. person for the acquisition of information. Now, first of all, I'm thinking isn't that just a longer definition of the Fourth Amendment? It's don't we already have that? But apparently not. Apparently not, bro. That's what I'm saying. You can apparently skirt all that stuff. That now, one of the major amendments proposed that's going to be voted on soon is that you have to put that information in to an amendment to possibly not renew the ability for that to already happen. Are you kidding me, man? This amendment would require that electronic surveillance, use of a PIN register, production of tangible things targeting U.S. persons for information can be done only pursuant to a warrant issued by a non-FISA federal court and only under the federal rules of criminal procedure. Bro, that stuff, I hope y'all getting excited about it as I am, because that is literal mind-blowing stuff here, right? That is Rand Paul basically saying, by the way, there's a thing called the Fourth Amendment. We have well-established lines of precedent showing what that means to certain individuals, the protection that carries upon it. Let's be honest with this as well, man. The protection of property and private property is essentially the foundation of this human experiment that we have right now. If we're not protecting that, we basically don't have a republic anymore. Let's be for real. And you guys have bastardized the entirety of all of it for close to a decade, man. And we're just now discovering this. The fact that you have to put an amendment to stress that one more time, the American people, that's just one out of the 5 amendments that are being proposed. One other quick one I want to touch here, man. I'll get your comments here right before I got to go here, man. Bipartisan amendment by Senator Ron Wyden and Senator Daines prohibits Section 215 of the U.S. Patriot Act from being used for warrantless collection of Americans' internet website browsing and internet search history. Section 215 currently allows the government to obtain FISA court order requiring third parties, such as telephone companies, to hand over their records or any other tangible thing if it's deemed relevant to certain types of investigations, including those for international terrorism. Section 215 would do away with that. And last thing I have to say here, Sean, hear me clearly, and I probably have to go after this. Hear me clearly. This is not just an Obama thing. It was most recently. But if you look up the numbers, bro, this is an everybody thing. This is a Trump thing, unfortunately, as well. Overall, the number of Americans unmasked has increased over the last 3 years under the Trump administration. I'm really sad to say that, but it's true. And there might be purposes behind it. I get that. But according to ODNI's statistical transparency reports, 10,012 Americans were unmasked in 2019 in response to a specific request. Nearly 17,000 Americans were unmasked in 2018 and close to 10,000 again, like I said, in 2017. Under the Obama administration, 9,200 individuals were unmasked in 2016 and only 1,100 in 2015. For me, that stat from 2015 to 2016 is the central focus of this story. The whole focus of this story is the increase in 2015 from 1,100 individuals being unmasked to 2016 to close to 10,000 individuals being unmasked. If you ask me, Trump is kind of just keeping it lane. I mean, kind of keeping it 10,000, 10,000, then we bump up to 15,000, 10,000. But 1,000 to a 10,000 increase from 2015 to 2016, super important years. Think to yourself what's happening then. I'm telling you, buddy. And with that, buddy, I gotta jump out, but I'll let you close the show, man.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Henry, for always bringing the fire on that. I mean, obviously, we talk about breakaway government institution. The FISA Court is definitely that. I mean, just the fact that they've been operating without authorization, illegal authorization, considering they violate the Fourth Amendment almost every time they go to work, is amazing. But thank you so much, Mr. Henry, and hope you have a good day, buddy.
I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Bye, y'all.
All right. So there's Mr. Henry out of here for the day. We appreciate him. I'm going to go over a few stories before I head out of here as well. You can find these stories at the Real News Facebook page where you're at right now. I want to let everybody know that today, there is a oppose reckless bailouts town hall with Marsha Blackburn, U.S. Senator from the state of Tennessee, and Tim Phillips, the president of Americans for Prosperity, and then the state director of Americans for Prosperity, Tori Venable. And that is, you can find the little advert there on our Facebook page. That's going to be at 4:15 Central, 5:15 Eastern. And you can join that by dialing in 855-436-3665. That's 855-436-3665. Or I will be streaming the audio, hopefully anyway, live on the Americans for Prosperity Tennessee Facebook page. So you should be able to check it out there. I posted a video last night from our good friend Tim Pool on YouTube from Timcast, if you want to check him out. And sorry, by the way, I'm having to look off the screen at my phone. By the way, I'm trying to stay in eye contact with you. But Democrats, if there wasn't enough reasons to oppose this, what they're calling the HEROES Act, but let's just call it the Bailout Act for fun. If there wasn't enough reasons to oppose this, Tim Pool has a great video about how Democrats sneak in loophole ending voter ID laws into COVID relief bill. I like what he uses there, COVID relief bill. That's probably a good way to do it. But a great video, and I don't know all the specifics, but there is a sneaky deal in there, and I'm sure there's 1,000 of these kind of things. That's why you got to stay plugged in. But they're trying to get rid of voter ID laws in that current legislation. Might want to let your House member or senators know about that. Grant touched on this, but I'll go on into it just a little bit. There's 2 lawsuits right now seeking to allow voting by mail in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee election officials have just said no way, though. Tennessee official fear of virus is not reason to vote by mail. Also, if you didn't see this today, big update for the Real News audience. City of Knoxville will opt out of the state program that lets law enforcement officers access the database of people who have tested positive for COVID-19. I think that's great, and I think we should give India Kincannon credit for that. Maybe tweet at her today or send her a message to say thank you for doing that, because that's what you wanted her to do. And I say all the time to people, you got to praise rhetoric, and this isn't even rhetoric, this is a decision. So thank her for that. Also, I was watching the Governor Lee press conference yesterday, and Governor Lee seemed to indicate that they were moving away from that process altogether and just giving officers PPE, because they said the reason they were doing it in the first place was for safety of the first responders. But now they're just saying you don't need to know who those people are because we have enough PPE for you. But we'll see, and I'll watch and probably post the governor's remarks today. Also, just like a program note for Real News, like we posted all these great videos, short videos, 10 to 15 minutes long of some of the great Real News fans and contributors and AFP activists, all doing kind of their own take on why they oppose these state bailouts. And I really would appreciate it if you check that out and watch them. Just support your friends. Support your friends and the other people who watch this show and participate in this show. And watch those short videos. You can find them in our video playlist, #RejectBailouts. If you're feeling real squirrely, you could share them. And if you're feeling really, really squirrely, you could go to our YouTube page and share those videos with your legislators using #RejectBailouts. Now, I think I've covered everything that we posted to Real News today. There's going to be more, so stay tuned. Always check back in with Real News during the day. We usually find stories that are at least interesting to us and share them with you. And if this is your first time watching Real News Radio, check out realnewsradio.live, bookmark that in your web browser. So if you can't find us on Facebook, you'll definitely be able to watch the stream there, and it has links to our other streaming platforms as well. Also, you know, if you've never watched the show, this is live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Tennessee mostly Middle and Tennessee centric news. We also talk national politics, and we have a great time. And we really appreciate you joining us this morning. All of you. We really do. And this whole experience during the shutdown, hanging out with you every morning, has been really, really amazing for me. I've really enjoyed it, and I think that it wouldn't have been as easy as it was without you guys. So thank you so much for being a part of the show, being a part of the Real News community, and for adding your own special flavor to it. Appreciate all of you so much. This has been Real News for May 13th, 2020. I'm David Shine Thompson, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.